and they're doing multiple things wrong.
Let's hear it, yeah.
The first thing they're doing wrong is they're conflating how much weight they're lifting with how much load they're getting on the muscle. And they're not the same thing.
So I have a question about this then. People in bodybuilding who are focused on maximizing the attention on specific muscle groups and needing growth, what are they doing wrong?
Wait, is this
in training?
This is a departure from the squat question.
This is a departure from the squat question. Okay. Now we're not talking about powerlifters, right? Mm-hmm. Who care about squat, bench, deadlift, and the strength of these movements, but they also do want to get big over time too. But now we're talking specifically about bodybuilders whose intention is making each muscle group as absolutely big as possible. When you see people training, right, what are they not thinking about? What are they doing wrong when they approach their training for hypertrophy purposes?
Okay, well, and they're doing multiple things wrong.
Let's hear it, yeah.
The first thing they're doing wrong is they're conflating how much weight they're lifting with how much load they're getting on the muscle. And they're not the same thing. Okay, so in order to understand that the amount of muscle load a muscle is getting might be more, even though you're using less weight, you have to understand a little bit of physics. And some people just can't wrap their head around physics. Right. To them, well,
a little bit.
I mean, look, you know that a longer lever is going to magnify something more than a shorter lever. If you've got a sledgehammer with a 3-foot handle, it's going to be a lot harder to lift than one that's got a 2-foot handle, right? So that's physics, right? Bottom line. I'll give you another one. I wanted to bring a scale here. I had the scale made, but it was just going to be too heavy to bring, and it wasn't going to show enough. But basically what I have is 2 6-inch levers coming off a pivot, right? So, and each one has a basket underneath there. So what I was going to show was a 30-degree lever on this side and a horizontal lever on this side. 1/4 of the weight that's here is here. So 4 times more here. This lever, limb, lower leg, requires 4 times more weight to get the same amount of load as this lever does at horizontal. That's physics, right? So if you think that squatting 200 pounds or 300 pounds is going to give you more quadricep load just because it looks more challenging, feels more challenging than a sissy squat, that's a mistake. Plain and simple, that's a mistake. But the other thing that people make mistakes in bodybuilding is that there's 16 principles, in fact, that optimize an exercise to a particular muscle. One of them, of course, is, full range of motion, alignment, early phase loading, the avoidance of neurological conflicts. All of these things act like a checklist, right? So if, let's just say you're analyzing an exercise and of the 16, 6 are not in compliance. Well, that's going to be less than optimal. Not as bad as one that was 10 out of compliance, but you can actually find the ones that have the least departure from compliance and say, well, then that one is the most productive exercise. The problem is that we've been lulled into thinking that you need constant variety, you need to work the muscle from every angle. No, a deltoid only has one side, deltoid only has one angle, right? That's all it does, right? So early phase load that, full range of motion, don't rotate the joint, opposite position loading, make sure that the muscle is directly opposite the line of force. Boom, you've got your best exercise. Just because you're not side lateraling as much as you would overhead press does not mean the deltoid is underloaded.
Guys, if you're like me, you hate meal prep and you like things to be easy, ready, and just ready to go. That's why we've partnered up with Eat Right Foods. Literally, they have different steaks, shrimp, chicken, rice, all of these amazing foods. And all you have to do is stick it in the microwave, warm it up, and eat it right out the bowl. Andrew, can you tell the people how to get it?
Absolutely. Head over to eatrightfoods.com. That's eatrightfoods.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject25 for 25% off your first order, and then code PowerProject for 10% off every order after that. Again, that's at eatrightfoods.com. Head over there right now.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. When you started to learn some of this stuff, was it kind of tough for you to implement it or believe it? Or you kind of I don't know about this. This sounds different. This sounds unconventional, but maybe I should give it a try.
Well, first of all, let me just say, it wasn't like I heard it from someone, right? I mean, I discovered this, right? I remember the first time I was 16 years old, the first time I discovered that if I raise the pulley from the ground level up to my hip level and I do a sideways with it, it's heavier at the beginning. And it's easier that I can actually hold it here. I can't hold a dumbbell if I'm doing it the same way, right? So you learn, you go, well, and I've never cared about impressing people with how much weight I was lifting. So I didn't have to have this emotional, like, oh my God, I have to leave this exercise that, all my buddies pat me on the back for, right? That's the problem, is there's an emotional attachment that some people have to these exercises, but for the wrong reason. It's not because it's most efficient, even though they might think it is. And as you said, it's because they're doing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. They look good, they're big, right? And so they assume that their favorite exercise is the one that's responsible for all this growth, but it may not very well be true.
And they might have habits that, extend all day long to help their body be bigger, and they could even be they could be performance enhanced. They could be getting their sleep in. They could be eating properly. And then they're telling you about the squats that they do.
And they're more invested in that exercise. In other words, let's just say that you think that squats is the king of quad exercises. So you're going to do 20 sets of squats. And oh, by the way, you might do 3 or 4 sets of leg extensions. Well, you're not going to get the growth from the leg extension because you're not invested into it.
Right. Mm-hmm.